So I had questions about collar sleeve and de la riva. So we're going to talk about them and how they kind of work in tandem, when I do which one, and how I kind of like combine them, conceptual, whatever you want to call it. So if I can have you stand up over here. So collar sleeve guard is basically when I have their sleeve with the same side grip, and then I have their collar with a cross grip. And now I can use my foot on my hip or on both hips. I can play with my knee on the inside or outside of their wrist to help manipulate their elbow. And for the most part, I basically only use this guard to work for omoplatas and triangles, or to transition to places like de la riva. So first I'll show the omoplata and triangle that I do. A cool tip is usually when we're battling right here is I have the sleeve and they're trying to pull their elbow to their hip, just like so. So when I have the collar and the sleeve and they pull their elbow to the hip, if I can ever just leg press and pull and remove the elbow, now I'm ready to attack, that's great. If not, if I'm still struggling by just pulling, you can actually work your knee to the inside of their wrist and then go ahead and pull your elbow back towards your hip really tight, and I can flare their wrist out and then fire my leg underneath as I pull both my elbows up as high as I can. So basically I'm trying to work until I can get my knee behind the shoulder, because now as I have my other foot on the far hip, I can elevate my hips for the triangle or kick all the way across for the omoplata. So if we know that my goal is to get my leg draped across the back and behind the shoulder here, and they know that, and they pinch their elbow really tight, if I can just press their elbow out, and now I can jump up and force my knee into position, that's fantastic. If not, they tuck it in really tight, I can work my knee inside the wrist, and then I flare my knee out, and now I can fire up. And again, omoplata triangle, based on what I have there. So again, those are my two most common attacks from that collar sleeve type guard. With that being said, there's a cool thing that people do where they try to squat down and bring their head and point it directly up towards the ceiling. Whenever I'm here, and then they point like straight up, and what it does is like lean fully backwards with your head. Yeah, like this. And it feels like it always slips that grip, and it makes it like basically useless. So hold on, stand up one more time real quick. So when people are square, hinged over at the hips, here I feel like I have access to my collar sleeve guard. And now look, I'm manipulating the arm, I'm manipulating it this way, trying to get my knee underneath, trying to wrap their arm around my thigh, whether I use my knee inside and then I fire, or whether I just kind of like press and I pull and I stomp. I'm trying to do this. The only way that they can posture up properly is by splitting my legs with one of their legs and then kind of squatting down and throwing their head backwards. So when I'm here and then they bring this leg forward and then they squat down and then bring their head back, it feels like my grip's already slipping, and I have an injured finger right now, so it's really slipping. So now I feel like my collar sleeve guard is really hard to play. This is where we can easily transition by taking our far foot and placing it down by the knee and extending their leg and shifting over into more of a de la riva guard. But I can still play with this collar sleeve. I can release and go to the de la riva, the pant leg grip, or I can stay here and I can start bumping them backwards and doing barambolos and stuff. But if we think about it more as my partner's in front of me and they're bent over at the hips, I feel like the strength is gonna come from places like collar sleeve guard. I feel like from here, because they're kind of square and bent at the hips, it's kind of difficult to play de la riva because they're not on that surfboard position. So I can stay here hunting my submissions, looking for my omoplatas and my triangles, aggressively attacking here. And the second I feel like this grip is about to break because they throw their hips back and their head up, it feels like it's an easy transition to go underneath the leg and I hook. And if I can't find myself underneath the leg because they're sitting their heel and their butt together, so like go to like more of a combat base, like really, but with this leg. Yeah, so yes, like this, and I can't take my leg underneath. This is where I'll stretch people's knee out and I'll go shin to shin while I play. And now I can either come back to collar sleeve, or now I have my gap to go back to de la riva. So to combat the combat base, haha, no pun intended, I can go shin to shin and I can stretch people out and stay here and then stomp on that far knee. And then I can look to shift off. And now I've entered that de la riva style position. Again, now I can sweep this way. I can elevate them forward, making them post their hand, and I can jump up on triangles and omoplatas and such from there. So now that we know this, we can start playing this game where we aggressively open guard, aggressively attacking, pulling, sweeping, doing this. And the second I feel this grip is in danger because they squatted down and they threw their head backwards, the second I feel it's in danger, I can hook the leg and I can basically undo and re-grab it. And now I'm here looking to dump my partner over into berimbolos, rolling back chokes. I can wrestle up, I can just come straight up into double underpasses, keeping that lapel grip, whatever I need to do. So that relationship between the two, based on whether my partner is hinged over at the hips and I have easy access to the upper body. But if they squat down really far and they throw their upper body backwards, it always gives me access to their lower body. So as long as you get good at opening their legs by pushing on that lower knee with your foot and extending them open, naturally this will open up. It's hard to attack people's combat base. So we go shin to shin and we push on the far knee and you extend. Now that gap is open. You can weave that leg underneath and you're on the hunt. So real quick now for a couple basic submissions from this combo. So collar, sleeve. If I have the strength to, I'm just gonna pull both my elbows up, lift my hips up in the air, and then I curl over the back. And now we can go for our triangle chokes. And we finish, form. Once I'm here, if they bring the elbow really tight, I can weave my shin inside the leg, flare my knee, and now kick through. And then we can also go for the omoplata, either by stomping on the hip really hard or the shoulder to help rotate. And now we're in on this omoplata, and we can just shift until we break them down. If they don't want to go down, you can always keep the grip and dig your leg under their far leg and start extending until we feel the tap right there. So there's some cool attacks from there. And then my basic attacks from De La Riva. Once I get there, right, so I'm here, I had my collar sleeve and they kind of squatted down and I feel like I don't have this anymore. So now I'm extending on that far knee, taking my long hook De La Riva. I'm gonna keep the collar and I'm gonna keep the pant leg here. And now I'm basically gonna take all four of my limbs and extend them over my head. And then once I drop them down, I'm gonna pull myself so my head comes underneath. And I pull all the way till I face their legs. And I make sure that my knee is on their stomach before I start chasing the back in this little knee wedge position. And now I'm chasing and I'm hunting and I can keep wedging them as I need until I can get my first hook, shrimp, and get my second hook on that big berimbolo. And then lastly, you can also play De La Riva like this, where once you're in De La Riva, if I feel like I get here and I can't knock my partner backwards, and then I feel like as I'm gripping, they stand straight up and they're breaking this grip, it feels like this is a really good opportunity to just sit up, start playing any of this like wrestling style De La Riva position, because if they're focusing super hard on making sure I can't control their posture like this and they posture straight up, it gives me that opportunity to sit up. I can wrap the legs, I can wrestle the single leg, I can do split sweeps coming down where you sweep people because they've made their base really wide and open because they decided to stand all the way up. Again, when they're down low, they're exposing that upper body so you can hunt submissions. When they break those grips and they throw their hips down, their knees forward and their head up, now it's easy to attack the lower body. So we can play between those two things back and forth just like that. Make sense?